I know it's literally in the Bible. I can hear Alex Jones screaming right now. But on the other, like, what are they supposed to do? If you go to like a porn site and it says you promise you're over 18, I don't want a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old clicking that and saying yes. So I think facial recognition is a good solution.
For everybody else, let's pull it up. We've got this story from thegamer.com. There is a bill under review right now that could prevent credit card companies from blocking adult games on Steam. For those that don't know the story, this has been an ongoing battle, a new gamer war, as it were, as video game distributors like Steam and Itch have been banning adult games because a feminist anti-porn group had been putting pressure on Visa and Mastercard to get this content banned. Steam then updates its rules saying, okay, we're not going to allow this stuff. And the issue is the content is legal. But Steam, facing pressure from payment processors, says, you know what? We're not going to be involved. Now, this bill that was introduced by Kevin Kramer of North Dakota was actually about gun rights. You see, several months ago, February 4th, when this was introduced, we had been hearing that credit card companies were going to start restricting anybody at gun stores. They were going to say, you know what, if you're using payment processing for guns, we're going to restrict this. It's a way to circumvent the Second Amendment and our right to keep and bear arms. But wait, there's more. The issue is much broader than that. Activist organizations are trying to prevent people from being able to buy legal products. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I think porn is bad. I'd have no problem if it was banned, whatever. But who am I? I'm not the king, right? We handle these things through debate, culture wars. We do shows. We challenge people. We argue why we think we're right. And we hope we win culturally. The far left, on the other hand, shows up with crowbars, baseball bats, Molotov cocktails. And then companies bend the knee. That is not the way anybody should live. It's not the way I want to live. I want to win on the merits. So I say, I am not going to entertain credit card companies banning content that can be legally purchased. I'm not playing that game because they're going to come for our guns. That's the play. It's all a Trojan horse. On top of this, we have other stories too, which are interesting in that in the UK and Australia, they're launching these age verification laws as well as the US. And initially, I had nothing but praise for it, saying, you know what? If it's an adult website, verify the age of somebody. What's the problem? Well, as much as I think that's actually rather simple, the problem is this law is now hitting everything. Spotify is requiring face scans and digital down. They want to get your ID and personal information permanently on record. And that was the fear many people had, a Trojan horse that I would say that I missed, that I was wrong about. Again, I'll say this. If your website exclusively just doing adult content and you're like, you need an ID to see this, I say, okay. The one thing I can add is, at least in public, when you go to an adult bookstore or a casino or a bar, you show your ID, they look at it, you're good to go. They don't get a permanent copy of it. These websites do. Now it's affecting Spotify, and people are getting banned from Spotify because it's demanding to verify their age so they can listen to music. Why? Because Spotify doesn't want to gate explicit content.
Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
Hello, I'm Gavin McInnes.
And together we're Compound Censored.
And we would like you to subscribe with this deal using this promo code right below me right now.
Do it, because it's very entertaining.
So this is where the identification of the world begins. And this is in line with all of that social credit score garbage. No, my friends, in the past, there is a man who has been targeted, smeared, defamed. He's been accused. He's been debanked. This man is Gavin McInnes. Let's pull in Gavin right now and have a conversation. We'll talk about this and get some insights. Gavin, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Let me just frame this a little bit better, and there we go. Sir, right now there is this big online battle over Visa and Mastercard being pressured to ban adult video games from these gaming platforms, and it's legal content. Users of these, the fans of these games, albeit it's not something I like, but their fans, They're outraged, but also there are people that are terrified that if the payment processors can universally dictate what products we're allowed to buy, then our culture is going to be enforced by unseen corporate influences. There was a bill introduced February 4th that would stop credit card companies from doing this, and this is about gun rights. But it's not just guns, not just video games, it's also politics. And we've seen a ton of people debanked. Carl Benjamin booted from Patreon, Laura Loomer banned from, I think it was PayPal, and you, I believe, have been banned, debanked, and shut down far and wide. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on what's currently happening with this action as well as these potential laws.
Well, it's a dangerous game we're playing because they are correct in assuming that kids under 18 should not be playing these games. They should not be playing porn games. The games have naked women in them. Young people shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be voting. They shouldn't be getting tattoos. They've already been totally corrupted by TikTok and doom scrolling. We've destroyed their innocence. So I get that. Right. But on the other hand, when you look at the arbiters of what is right and what is wrong, they are totally corrupt and inept, which is not a good combination. I'm banned from everything. Twitter, Pinterest, MailChimp, like everything. And every time I tried to get for censored.tv, when I try to get payment, they go, we got a guy. They do guns. They can help you. And then that guy would go, dude, I don't know who you pissed off, but I can't help you. I had this weird Israeli dude that would only listen to, accept my application if other, Hasidic or Orthodox Jews said that I was a legit dude. I got that. He goes, I don't know who you peed off.
Wow.
CBD, porn guys, and all these people, the rates they charge are like triple what normal people get. And they all said no because I pissed off Visa and Mastercard. So it's a really interesting debate because I do agree with them that I don't want children watching porn. We've watched phones destroy an entire generation of childhood. But on the other hand, who's in charge now? Who's making these decisions?
Yeah, one of the things we started to see too, because I'll put it this way. When we first started hearing that states were passing these ID requirements for porn websites, the gut reaction immediately is like, okay, that's fine. I mean, if you're literally just a site for porn, then people should be able to just randomly show up and just say, sure, I'm 18, trust me. The problem is they passed these laws, and now we're seeing, one, pressure is being applied to these credit card companies who are gleeful to do it most likely. But also Spotify is now requiring face scans of people to prove you're of age because they have explicit content. There are lyrics that are naughty and they don't want young people getting access to this. So I can certainly entertain, in meat space and physical world, if you go try and buy an explicit CD, which we don't anymore, you show an ID one time, you walk out the door. What their companies are saying now is they want a permanent record of your ID and a picture of your face forever for this. That's where things start getting dystopian.
I know it's literally in the Bible. I can hear Alex Jones screaming right now. But on the other, what are they supposed to do? If you go to a porn site and it says you promise you're over 18, I don't want a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old clicking that and saying yes. So I think facial recognition is a good solution. And why are these losers playing these stupid video games anyway? Like Detroit Become Human, whatever the hell it's called, and you're watching the girls look prepubescent with big breasts, and you're playing these games for 6 hours a day. That's a separate topic, but we're arguing about loser rights. It's
true though, but it's also guns, right? Earlier this year, we were hearing that Visa and Mastercard were blocking transactions of guns. And that's why Kevin Cramer said, okay, we can't allow payment processors to block the sale of legal products. It's interference. But the bill never went anywhere. And I'll ask you, let me add this. This is what's crazy. So this morning, we reached out to all these members of Congress, senators, people in the House. We know a lot. And they're all excited, saying, we want to talk about the Pelosi Act. We want to talk about insider trading. And we were like, awesome. We also want to talk about this bill that would stop the credit card processors from banning legal transactions. Everybody just stops responding. Just no more responses. You still there? Nothing. Just gone. They don't want to go near this.
Yeah. What you got to understand, too, is there's a bottleneck. So just like I was saying before with there's porn and CBD and the Israeli dudes and all these different people that deal on the outskirts of payment processing, they all meet at Visa and Mastercard.
Yep.
So if you're in the bad books here, no one can apply. It's a very elite, tiny group that controls all this. And what I think they are doing while holding the hands of the elites is Trojan horsing valid complaints. It is wrong for children to watch pornography. We got that as parents, it all tugs at our heartstrings. So we agree. And then just like the Patriot Act, right? They can slowly expand the definitions of what unacceptable is until they control us all. So it's like holding someone at gunpoint, really, and saying, I'm going to hurt your kid unless you let me control your life.
You know, the worst thing is, it doesn't work. There's a viral story right now where kids have been using video game characters to bypass the facial scans. So Discord apparently had some like age verification thing, and they used the video game Death Stranding, and Norman Reedus, they used his face, and it's got something called photo mode, so you can make him look and open his mouth, and it worked. Not only that, I went on Gemini, Google's AI, and I typed in a video of a 35-year-old man looking at the camera. He looks left, he looks right, he opens his mouth. Now I can easily use that and plug it in to any of these facial scanners. It's not going to stop kids getting access to it, but it is going to create a permanent database of all your private behaviors and actions, and they're going to exploit that data for malicious ends. It's getting creepy.
Yeah, but another thing the childless forget, though, is that young kids don't want to see porn. Like the left always goes, they can get around it. Trust me, your 8-year-old has seen a lot of gangbanging. And you're like, no, I don't think my 8-year-old has seen any of that. I remember when I showed my 5-year-old The Croods. This is a long time ago. And there's some romantic relationship with the teenage girl and some guy. And I remember as a 5-year-old, he would put his hand over his eyes during those scenes. Because even like that little bit of subtle romance was nauseating to him. Yeah. So in a way, we also have to protect the kids from things they accidentally stumble into. That's why we have parental IMDb. Kids don't want to see this disgusting garbage. But again, I'm sick of those valid concerns being manipulated by leftists and globalists.
With your cancellation, I guess it's one of the most persistent, right? I mean, you know, Alex Jones is back on X. He's fighting. They're coming after him. They're coming after him hard. But there are a lot of people who have made comebacks to a certain degree. But you were saying you're still banned on Twitter, on X?
I can't write my own company. I don't own. I can't write myself a check. If you gave me a pub, I wouldn't be able to process credit cards. I'd have to put it in my, someone else's name, my wife's name or whatever. It is completely permanent. And insiders at YouTube have told me that no, there's no redemption. There's no coming back from this. You're on the perma list. It must be Proud Boys. Yeah. It must be like they're considered a terrorist group in Canada and New Zealand. So if I get on there and I go, hey, Proud Boys, go blow up ICE or something, and they do that, then they're culpable, I guess. I don't know. They think I control the Proud Boys like little marionettes. But it's not changing.
Yeah, it is really weird. I wonder if this is going to shift, though, if it's going to change. It does seem like the more freedom-oriented, it's interesting. It's like libertarian to conservative spectrum-ish. Not necessarily everybody conservative, but there's a lot of freedom element in there, has been winning. Woke has been failing. I mean, the Sydney Sweeney ad.
Sydney Sweeney ad was a biggie. Look, our show we did last Saturday was a biggie. There was 3 idiots there. Some fat NPC check who didn't say a word. Some guy who says don't tolerate fascists in any form and tells everyone that tells you to eat a D because you're a fascist and we should tip the guys. And then some other dude who is just standing there holding a sign. And that was that was everyone who was there to protest. So there's definitely a major culture shift. Anthony Cumia yesterday was saying it's like hair bands, where they were getting so bad with like post-Cinderella, Striper, whatever, that grunge had to come. It had to happen. So we're in the Nirvana phase of hair rock. It's definitely at dinosaur extinct levels. But there'll still be, people on the outskirts that will never be invited back.
Have you recently tried to remedy any kind of the debanking stuff you've dealt with?
Not recently. I think I applied to PayPal because we thought we could sue them. So that's still, being mulled over. But I don't know. I like a cop recently. I invited him on my podcast. He goes, "No, man, you're on a list. I've never seen a list like that before." I'll try again, but I also don't want to rock the boat. Like our app is just floating there, barely available. And if we, change one thing, it's sort of like, when you're a little kid and you're up past your bedtime and you're watching TV and you go and itch your nose. And then your dad's like, "Oh my God, look at the time. Right, my boy. Time for BED. Let's go." That's where I live.
You just don't say anything and hope they don't notice.
I'm sitting on the couch next to my parents like this, watching like BJ and the Bear, petrified someone's going to see that I'm up past my bedtime.
I think it could only be the Proud Boys because I don't think you're saying anything, or you tend to say anything that is more egregious than some of the more egregious people that are actively on X and other platforms right now.
I'm a race-mixing Zionist, libertarian, socially libertarian. I want strong borders. So did everyone a few years ago. I mean, it's like you, even Alex Jones. Like, these people are all moderates. There's very few radicals. Nick Fuentes is very radical when it comes to Israel and Jews, but he's pretty moderate with everything else. And that's where we're at now. And then you go look at their side, and they're like pro-terrorism, pro-murder, kill Trump, all of this super, like the media is totally ignoring this trans domestic terrorism cult that's already killed 6 people. We just had Antifa bombing ICE. And the media is like, well, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. But anyway, Gavin swore.
This story, I think it was upstate New York. There's what's it called? The Ziz cult?
Zizians.
It's a literal cult of transgender people, and they've already killed law enforcement. That's crazy.
And you could argue that then they're killing their own. That's the other thing about these radical lefties. When you brainwash a kid into getting in a firefight with state troopers over in Georgia because they want to build a training ground, you've killed that kid. You're responsible for that death. If you're a bank robber and the getaway guy runs someone over, you're responsible for that death.
Yep.
So they're not just responsible for killing innocent people, they're killing their own. Yet we're the radicals. I feel our comedy shows get canceled.
But this is actually pretty amazing because we had a show last Saturday. You were on the panel. We were debating whether Trump was winning. And we had a liberal guy who, look, bless his heart, he was the one talking against what, like everyone in the room was like, no, we're cool with Trump. And he was the only one. And we needed that. But what's fascinating is they canceled the show. And my first reaction was, I was like, well, we have Gavin on. We figure they were going to cancel us. They bring the show back. And then we find out, no, it was me, not you. They were targeting me, and I was like, oh, wow. I was like, oh, hey, cool, Gavin, you're in the clear. They weren't coming after you this time. So it's surprising that we were able to win that. So I'm wondering if this is changing to a certain degree. And what I will add is the whole Antifa Proud Boys things is so weird because my understanding is that first of all, you had Antifa going around firebombing, torching, burning, destroying. The Proud Boys only accidentally got involved in this protest stuff. It was originally a joke. I remember I interviewed you very briefly, I think it was, in the Bay Area, and you were talking about Aladdin and how it was a drinking club and it was just a gimmick, and you were largely not involved. Then they declared it a terrorist organization.
It wasn't like it was a joke and then it became a white nationalist terror group that murders people for no reason. It's still a joke. At meetups, they're still like walking around in that beaver costume. The guy where the gas station, what's his name? Bucky Cheese, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, Bucky's.
They're wearing those costumes. They're throwing plastic dicks at each other when they're passed out. It's still can I say retarded? It's still a retarded joke club. But the media changes, the media's perception. And I can prove that it was, and here's my proof. Proud Boys never went to their things. They always came to Proud Boys things. And that's what people don't understand. The amount of violence Antifa was fomenting at all these events. You either sat there and took it. You took the pepper spray. You took the flash bomb. You took the rocks. that Lauren Southern once said to me, she goes, I felt like a LARPer because I was wearing a helmet. I had goggles on. I had chest plates. I had a gas mask. I felt ridiculous, like some sort of Mad Max cosplay. And then they threw rocks at me. They pepper sprayed me. There was flash bombs. I ended up using all the things that I felt stupid having on my body. So it was purely defensive. If they said, you want to go, Proud Boys would say, yeah, we want to go. But you got to understand that Antifa is the paramilitary wing of the DNC, and you can't mess with their paramilitary wing or you're going to jail.
You know what I think it was is that the Proud Boys was the boogeyman they were looking for with the far right. Because there's no actual prominent right-wing group going around doing anything. The right doesn't even protest. I was talking about this with even the issue of porn, where you're going to find almost every person, conservative, right-leaning, is going to say kids shouldn't have access to porn and there should be some restrictions. But we don't think credit card companies should force the issue. We think we should pass laws and win this one culturally. Whereas the left says, nah, we'll show up with bricks and Molotovs and force you to do it no matter what you want to do. So you can't even get the right to use power. Like Trump won't even invoke the Insurrection Act on these riots.
It's all about manipulation. And I think the beauty of the pendulum swinging back the other way is we're done with that. And not to harp on Sydney Sweeney, but obviously they were aware of the double entendre and it could be seen as a eugenics thing, but they were leaning into it. Like the analogies that I was using the other day is, say you had a commercial for white jeans and it was saying we were wearing white after Labor Day and the motto was, it's okay to be white. That would be an egregious ad, but it would be them acknowledging that, yeah, I know you're going to twist this and I don't care. So we have to get to the point where we go, yes, I don't want kids watching porn. I don't want them playing games with naked women in them, but you're not going to use that against me and now put a chip in my hand in order to protect my children. Stop trying to use my own, patriarchal love for my family against me.
It is funny though, because then you end up with like these creepy degenerates who make weird anime porn games standing next to you being like, you're right. I agree with you. And you're like, oh God, don't stand next to me.
I don't like you, but I'm in your side. I'm on your side. And you know what? We need more of that, believe it or not. The right needs more unity. The left has unity to a fault. They're down with pedophiles and violent terrorists. And then George Santos spends too much money on a chin job and we throw him in jail for 8 years.
Is that what it was? A chin?
Well, he spent some campaign money getting a chin implant. Okay.
It is funny because you've had a bunch of Democrats who could easily have been challenged or questioned, or Ilhan Omar, according to the Star Tribune, and I'm quoting the Star Tribune, may have married her brother. That's a quote from the Star Tribune. I'm not making that up, and they lose it. Hey, maybe we could investigate things like that, but you can't get unity from the Republicans on any of these things. They just they can't do it.
Well, we've got about 1,100 days left where our guy is in control. So we better make, and this was his mistake in 2015, we better make some permanent laws, some permanent changes in order to fix this. Because without another term with a J.D. Vance or a Donald Trump Jr. or something, all of this hard work could be reversed and we could go back to seeing, Viola Davis in every action movie kicking the crap out of 50 Russian mobsters.
She'll be the new James Bond.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, the Sydney Sweeney thing is actually really interesting, and
some people.
Yeah, they're leaning in. I think they put out a statement. I'm not sure if it was them, but they said 70% of people responded positively to the ad. They liked it. But here's the crazy thing: since when was genetics synonymous with eugenics? Simply mentioning that guys like big boobs and it's good genetics is not eugenics. They didn't say stop breeding with inferior breasts. They just said this woman's attractive.
All the left is obsessed with eugenics, and it's all they do is practice it. Why do you think they spend $50,000 a year on property tax up in Westchester, New York? Because they want to isolate themselves from the paupers, from the peasants. Yeah. So they take it on the chin. They lose all this money in taxes so they can go to all white schools. All these liberals, all these ginos, Jews in name only, I call them, secular Jews, they all send their kids to all white schools. And then they empty their bank account, sending them to NYU for $250,000. Why do they do that? So they can get a degree in liberal arts? No, it's eugenics. They want their daughter to marry another rich person, so they keep the money in the family. That's all. It's all genes. They're obsessed with eugenics. If any of these liberals had a boyfriend from the South Bronx or something, they'd be absolutely mortified, and it wouldn't be based on race. It could be a white kid from the South Bronx, and they would slit their wrist because you just killed my genes that I've been working on.
I want to tell you this. So I just recently had a kid, and we're in West Virginia, but we're probably like 5-10 minutes away from Loudoun County, which is the highest median income in the country, maybe the world. And so when we were planning how we were going to do this, I said, whatever it is we do, our doctor is going to be in Loudoun. We are going to go to the doctors that the wealthy elites of D.C. use. And here's the funny thing. So baby is born. She's healthy and happy. And I'm talking to...
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Talking to some people, and they said, did they force you to get a bunch of shots and vaccines? And I went, no. And they were like, they didn't? And I was like, no. They asked us... they said, here are the available vitamins and, ointments and vaccines. And we said, which ones do you think are necessary? I think they were like, vitamin K, but you can do eye drops if you don't want to do a shot. And that's about it. And we were like, maybe we'll do the eye drops or something. And they were like, sure. And then I was talking to somebody who had a kid recently in West Virginia, and they were threatened by the hospital that they didn't give the kid a series of vaccines. They were going to be forcefully ejected, and the kid was getting those vaccines. And I'm not anti-vaccine in any way. I just take the recommendation of the doctors. But I do find it interesting that in the impoverished area, some 40, 50 miles away, the doctors were telling people, you can't leave or you can't take your kid until we do this, and we will physically remove you. Then you go to the ultra wealthy area, and they're like, literally anything you want, you just tell us. And that's how it works for the That's how it works for the rich people.
That's the front page story on the New York Times in a perfect world. Where are the journalists covering stories like that? This vaccines for thee and not for me should be the biggest story of the year.
I was asked. They were like, wait, you didn't? What vaccines? I was like, I don't know if we got any. I don't know. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? And I was like, I think we got a vitamin one. I'm not sure. They said, how did you do that? And I said, you want to know the secret? There's no... You just go to the rich doctor. You like where all these wealthy liberals live, go there because it's rules for thee and not for me. So just, you're allowed to drive there. You're allowed to pull into the hospital and you're allowed to use that. Like there's no one telling you can't. I'll say this because we got a couple minutes left. There's a fascinating reality to class in this country and the world. Yep. And that is, if you're a server, if you serve people grilled cheeses at a diner on the south side of Chicago, congratulations, you're going to make $30-40 a day. If you go be a server at a diner, no formal training, in a wealthy suburb or area like Loudoun County, you'll be making $200-300 a day because the food's going to be more expensive and the tips are going to be much higher. And it doesn't matter. All that matters is where you are. I knew some chick who she never did work. She has no job. What would she do? She said once a year, she calls one of her millionaire friends and asks them if they're in the market for any kind of art. And if they say yes, she then calls a broker and says, I got a guy who wants to buy, he's looking to spend $40 million. And they said, here's what we've got. She calls him and says, I got you set up, babe. We'll get it transferred. And then she gets $300,000. That simply by knowing rich people. That's the crazy reality of it.
Well, my Con Ed bills are about $40 a day to keep my house cool in the summer. At my studio in the South Bronx, it's about half that, but that's still $20 a day. And I realized this morning that it used to be services are based on what you can afford. So the grilled cheese in your fancy neighborhood is going to be $15.
Yep.
At the deli in the South Bronx, it's going to be $7. But now utilities are based on what you can afford. And Con Edison is being like, oh, your house seems nice. Okay, $40 a day you got to pay. You
know what else people don't realize? Have you noticed that in not every, but many cities that have tolls, it's always a toll on the way in, but never the way out? I remember because New York does this and San Francisco does it. And San Francisco, I think, was expensive. I don't know if it was like $15 or something. I think New York was like $10 or $15. And I was like, that's interesting. If you're a poor person and you want to drive into New York, you're going, oh man, but it's $15. I better not do it. But if you're a poor person in New York, you're like, it's free to leave. Just costs money to come in.
Get out of here.
Yep.
I've been riding my motorcycle this whole week with no helmet. Not on the highway, but around South Bronx and Westchester. And I have my whole speech ready for when I get pulled over. And it's like, all I see is people of color not wearing a helmet. Half of them don't even have license plates on their motorcycle. Why are you punishing those who follow the rules? It's like immigration. You get a visa and a green card and then And then citizenship, you spend tens of thousands of dollars, or you could just wander in. I'm sick of being punished for following the rules. I'm not doing it anymore.
I do think we're winning, but we're just about out of time. Is there anything you wanted to say before we wrap up? Any final thoughts?
No, please go to censored.tv. That event we did on Saturday was super fun. I got a comedy special coming out that's going to be pay-per-view. And I seem to be getting calls to do comedy shows. So there's a lot of small indicators that the culture is changing. And I think academia, Canada will be the last to catch up, and movies. Those will be the last three groups to catch up to this anti-woke movement. But I think we're in a good spot. Right
on, man. Well, thanks for hanging out and sharing your insights. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Have a go, man.
Cheers.
Of course, that is Gavin McInnes. And man, nobody has been more debanked than him. And honestly, it's freaky and it makes no sense. There's a period where everybody in this space that was fighting against this knew the limits, and there were concerns about it. When we had Alex Jones on the first time on Timcast IRL, we were talking about booking him, and we knew he was persona non grata. I reached out to our Google rep, our YouTube rep, and I said, is there any rule against interviewing Alex Jones on our show? And they said, absolutely not. They said, you can absolutely bring him on, talk to him. He just can't have his own channel. I said, fantastic. We did the episode with Michael Malice and Alex Jones. 1 week later, not even a week, it was like 4 days, they deleted it. They made up some fake reason. They never explained to us why it was deleted. And they said, don't worry, it's just a warning. I immediately called Alex and Michael and said, come back, we're doing the show again. So we did. We did another show with Jones and Rogan. Our biggest show ever. It had, I don't know, it was like 8 to 10 million views because it was Joe Rogan. Come on, it's easy, it's obvious. Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, Luke Rudkowski, Drew Hernandez, Blair White, Michael Mez. It was nuts. 3 years after it aired, they deleted it. And they wouldn't tell me why. They said someone said something that was medical misinformation. And I said, BS. But you know what? I think things are changing. Our event got canceled on Saturday. And I thought it was Gavin. I was like, well, we wanted to have Gavin there. And then they brought it back. And they were actually targeting me. Alex Stein, he was like, I've never seen someone get their venue back. We are winning. Sane, rational thought is winning. We haven't won completely, but we're winning. So I actually think anybody who knows the real story of the Proud Boys and Gavin, he's not a white supremacist. He's not white nationalist. It's insane. They just turned him into a boogeyman. By all means, he makes offensive jokes and you can not like the guy. But there are substantially worse people. Seriously, I wonder if it's going to start turning around, especially for Gavin. So I do appreciate, Gavin, you coming on the show. For everybody else, we're going to gear up for that raid on Russell Brand, who they're also trying to cancel. It's insane. My friends, smash that like button. Share the show. Subscribe. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We got another show coming up this Saturday at the DC Comedy Loft. And we have a prominent liberal, a big liberal that we're hoping will come on and join this police debate. Because we're having anarchist Michael Malice, who's pro-Trump, but critical of the police, with angry cops, Richard High, a literal cop, and they're both absolutely hilarious. So I imagine this is going to be one of the funniest shows we do, and it's just about sold out. I think we were expecting 200 people. It's going to be just absolutely nuts. But I hope to see you there. It's going to get crowded. DC Comedy Loft's got a full kitchen. They got a bar. It's fantastic. You get wings. Last time we gave out, one of the employees on Saturday autographed a mustard, and then we were like, anybody who gets the autographed mustard wins. You win a signed skateboard deck, a Step on Sneck, I think it was. And so I guess somebody won it. I don't know. It's fun though. So again, hang out with Russell Brand, guys. We're back tonight at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you all in the next bit.
So, if you enjoyed that clip,
then subscribe to Compound Censored using this promo code.